Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. This is Momboa, your future CFO. So in this video, I want us to look at what we're gonna be doing as a finance manager, as a financial controller, as a senior manager in finance during your first week of employment. What are the areas that you want to be looking at to get to understand the organization better, to understand your team, the people you'll be working with, and also to understand the nature of business of the organization. So there are three areas that you need to look at as a finance manager, as a CFO. And the first one is that you need to understand the financials of the organization. You also need to understand the team, who is in charge of which operations. You also need to understand the organization, the business. So basically that is what we're gonna be going through in this video. And I'm gonna be sharing a balance sheet, because we know a balance sheet shows a snapshot of the organization. It's like, it summarizes the organization as a whole. It tells you more about the organization, because we know all other financial statement, the end is the balance sheet. So basically that is what we're going to be looking at, guys. And very fast, let me share my balance sheet. We start now understanding the organization during your first week of employment. You need to understand what goes on in the organization. It's part of the orientation. So you're getting yourself to know more about the organization. So going through the balance sheet, we have the cash and cash equivalent. That is cash and bank. So what does cash and bank tell me? The cash and bank will tell me the bank accounts that we have. Which banks do we have accounts with? Maybe we have a Chase Bank, we have Bank of America, we have the Santander Bank, and maybe any other bank. So what are the relationships that we have in this bank? Who do we, in case of anything, who do we talk to in these banks? Are we happy with the current correspondence? Do we need to open maybe more bank account? How are we doing reconciliations? How are we reconciling our cash books and the bank? Are we using a system? Are we doing it in Excel? So you get to know more about how things are done, who are in charge of the bank reconciliations. So you're able to understand more about the banks. How do we handle our petty cash? Who is in charge of petty cash? Yes, those kind of things. So by just looking at the balance sheet, you're able to get as much details as you can. Then now let's move on to receivables, which are reported net of provisions. You're able to know, you're able to get an hedging schedule. You're able to know the breakdown of the receivables. Who are our customers? What are their current balances? So you get to know stories about these customers. So who is our major customers? How are they paying us? Do we have customers who have maybe like liquidity issues? Maybe they're slow paying customers. So you get to understand more about the customers. You get to know who pays well, who has payment problems, who are our major customers. Basically, that is what the receivables will be able, you will be able to understand from there. How we using factors on our receivables, who are our collection officers. So you get to understand more about what goes around our receivables. Are we doing provisions the correct way? So basically that is what the account receivable will be able to tell you. your first week of employment. And here you're not trying to be a detective, guys. You just getting to understand the business, and you need to let the staff know so that there are no misunderstandings. So you just getting to understand the business. You know where you're gonna pick from. So the next thing is inventory. Inventory, you're able to know which are our fast moving inventories. Which are the slow moving inventories? What are our reorder levels? Where do we have our warehouses where we store these inventories? Then you're able also to get the controls around all these inventories, around receivable, around cash and bank. So you're able to identify the gaps so that you know where you will be able to pick from. The property, plant, and equipment. Here you need maybe the fixed asset schedule, which shows the breakdown of the balance that is sitting in the balance sheet. So you're able to know which assets we have. Are we depreciating them where? What is the company policy when it comes to depreciation? How are we depreciating our computers? What is the policy on depreciation of furnitures, motor vehicles? Who are using the different assets, the different non-current assets that we have? So what are the policies when it comes to maybe like disposal? If we want to buy more of these assets, what are the policies? So you're getting to understand the business as you go through the balance sheet. The next item is our payables. And when it comes to payable, we said you need to slow down the payables. So what are the controls around payables? Who is in charge of accounts payable? How frequent do we pay our accounts payable? What is the policy? What does the policy say when it comes to accounts payable? How many days? In days in accounts payables. How do we pay? Do we pay them through checks? Do we pay them through EFTs? How often do we do it? Accruals. We have accruals. We need to see the breakdown of the accruals. How long have we accrued these expenses? Have we accrued all the expenses? So it's like basically you're getting to understand. You like getting yourself know the organization better so that you know as a finance manager, as a CFO, where you need to pick from. Bank loan. This is the non-current liabilities. You get to know what are our non-current liabilities. Which banks do we have loans with? So basically, it's like it's giving you more details to get to know what happens around the organization. Then you're also able to know the finance structure of the organization, the capital structure. How are we financing our different operations? Are we using equity? Are we using retained earnings? Are we using debt to finance the operations? Because you can tell that from the liability side of the balance sheet. Then you also get to know when it comes to shareholders, you're able to know who are the major shareholders of the organization. You get a listing of the shareholders. So you're able to understand who are the shareholders, how many shares do they have. Then you also get to know the dividend payment policy of the organization. Are we an organization that pays residual dividends? First, we invest all our retained earnings. Then now we pay dividends based on what remains. So basically, that is what it entails when it comes to understanding the business. The next thing is you need to understand the team. And as you go through the balance sheet, the statement of financial position, you're able to understand like who does reconciliation, receivables. You're able to get the person in charge of receivables. Inventory, you're able also to get to know who is in charge of inventory in the organization, who is in charge of our stores. The fixed asset register, that is the PPE, who is in charge of PPE. So in case I want to see the PPE, who do I talk to? Accounts payable, who is in charge of payables and accruals. So basically you get to understand, as you go through the balance sheet, you're also understanding more about what goes around the organization, more about the team. Then you also maybe need to get to know more about maybe who is in charge of IT, who is in charge of HR, the different departments, who is in charge of credit. So you want to know more about the organization so that you can know where to pick from, what are the gaps that you need to fill as a finance manager in terms of controls, and maybe to get to do things better. Then also the organization. As you go through this, you're able to learn more about the organization. We are able to know what are our products, which are the fast moving products. You get to know more about the organization. You get to know more about the shareholders, the capital structure. As you go through the balance sheet, we say the balance sheet is like, it's a snapshot of the organization. So basically, guys, that is what I had for you today. And if you find this content helpful, share it with someone who is about to start a job. I know sometimes it can be overwhelming. So thank you guys for your time. Thank you for staying with me all the way to the end. Please don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Please subscribe, like, comment. Let's grow together. Thank you, guys. Be blessed.